We've got to get our Blazer body mounted on our chassis table, but we're actually not sure if this is going to fit. This 1976 Chevy Blazer has come a long way in the past couple of weeks. The Blazer was disassembled and sandblasted, and now we can see all of the bad areas that need to be fixed. In the previous episode, we measured out our frame and made sure it was square, and then we took all those measurements and built a chassis jig for the Blazer body. Now it's time to get the body off the rotisserie and mount it on our chassis tables so that we can start up on the long process of rust repair. In the last video, we got this chassis table built to mimic our frame, and now we're ready to get the Blazer body mounted on the table. So like I said, we've got to get the body up off the rotisserie so we can mount it on our chassis table to start metalwork, just because it's so rotted and there's so many structural issues. That's just what we have to do now. But one of our worries is we're not sure if this actually is gonna fit. This is a pretty small garage, so we might not be able to get this up high enough to get that chassis table underneath. So we're gonna try and move things around, see if we can do it. Mike and I took a lot of time building this body jig. We carefully took all the measurements and double, even triple checked everything to make sure it was correct. There could be no room for error while building this cart, because even if we were just an 1/8 inch off, that would change how the body sits once it's bolted back down to the frame. So now it's time to figure out exactly how we're gonna get this body mounted on our table. We're hoping that by jacking up the rotisserie all the way, we're gonna be able to just slide the table underneath and then lower it down. Seems pretty simple and easy, right? Well, you're wrong. Okay, well, we ran into our first major issue. We actually can't get this high enough. So we're hitting our light up there. We got to go up another 6 inches or so to get this underneath. So we're gonna try and flip the rotisserie a little bit to see if it'll allow us to have enough clearance to get this underneath. If that doesn't work, we're gonna throw a jack underneath the front of this and jack it up and then slide the body cart underneath. What do you think? Is it gonna work? Terrifying. We'll see. Blazer is on our body table, so everything worked out fairly nicely. The only issues that we have are all of these are supposed to be pretty flush because all of our measurements are correct. You can see that one is a little off, about an 1/8 inch. But then if you come up here to the front, you can see this one is good. But then look at this one. I mean, that one is off probably at least a 1/4 inch right there. We're probably gonna have to try and pull the body down to match that because we think it's just tweaked just because of all of this rot. So I'm gonna jump in and put some weight on that. We're gonna tack that into place, and then we're gonna go around and tack the rest of the body to the body cart. We're gonna do this just to make sure that this body doesn't move as we start to cut everything out of it. So let's get this thing welded to the table. With how much structural rust this Blazer has, we really weren't surprised when we found out that the body wasn't laying perfectly flat on the chassis table. This isn't a huge issue, but we do have to make sure we correct this before we move forward doing any patch panels. So I'm gonna climb in the body and put some weight on the spots that aren't touching the chassis table so that it weighs it down, and then Mike can lay down some tack welds, keeping it flush. We've got the brand new quarter panel for our 76 Chevy Blazer Restoration laying right here. We have 2 of them, just one's right here. We wanted to pull this out to kind of look at it to see exactly what comes with this, just to make sure that we're not cutting off or damaging anything that doesn't come with this bedside. So first thing we gotta do is we gotta get this rear brace cut off, and then after that we're just gonna carefully start to cut these welds around here, get this separated away, and then work our way towards the front, slowly removing it. A lot of the times what works really well is removing the biggest chunk you possibly can at first, and then slowly going around all the edges and trimming them up. That way you don't damage any of this, which, I mean, we have to replace this anyway, but this we want to keep. So yeah, me and Mike are gonna jump on that right now. I'm probably gonna jump on one side, Mike's gonna jump on the other. We're gonna try and get this thing cut apart, and then hopefully we don't find any more rot, because we probably will, but let's just cross our fingers and hope we don't find anything else. All right, guys, bedside is cut off, and really we didn't find any surprises. All of this is good, which actually really surprised me. I thought for sure we were gonna find something here. We did have a little bit of rot right here that we're gonna have to patch, and of course the rot back here, so we're probably just gonna put in a whole section of the floor right here and then rebuild both these flanges. But Mike was on the other side getting the bolts taken out of the wheel well, so we're almost done with that, but we're gonna come back tomorrow and we're gonna get the other bedside completely torn off and removed from the Blazer.
With one bedside off, we are halfway there. Now it's time to start tackling the other side. First thing we had to get off was the inner wheel well, which was just bolted in. Once that was off, we can start to attack the bedside. This side had a little bit more work just because the other side was so rotted it almost fell off for us. So Mike and I tag teamed this, him working on cutting all the welds on the rear post while I worked on removing the spot welds on the front of the bedside. Then Mike grabbed the Sawzall and cut the bedside in half so that we could get the majority of it removed. That way we could work on removing that last front section. Mike and I have learned to work pretty efficiently together, so within no time we had this bedside completely removed and looking just like the other side. Of course, with maybe a little bit more persuasion than on the other side. Now with the rear section removed, we can both work on attacking this front piece. I'm going to try and just get the majority of it removed. That way we can go back and trim everything up. I figured that it's the easiest way to do this panel removal instead of trying to do the whole thing at once. While I was doing that, Mike was cleaning up all of the weld flanges along the bed so that we can prep to get the new bedsides welded on. We were both pretty happy with how much progress we had made. Removing both of the bedsides wasn't as hard as we thought it would be, and definitely took less time than we thought it would take. And when every second counts in this build, it finally felt good to be ahead of schedule. This doesn't happen very often. We figured that we were about ready to start mocking up the new bedsides, until I noticed something on the inside of the bed that we hadn't noticed until we removed the bedsides. More rust, and it's not just a little bit. It seems that the whole inner panel has rotted away. And the biggest problem is that the panel sits underneath the bed and we have no idea how we're gonna fix this.
Okay, driver bedside has been completely removed and is cut up on the ground over there. This side, we really didn't find too many surprises other than this right here. So there's a little bit of rot that we knew about. And then also over here, there's a little bit more rot that we're gonna have to deal with. But we just found something that's gonna be extremely difficult to repair. Coming up to the front of this floor, you can see there's a little bit of rot right here. And as you follow it across, it almost gets worse and worse and worse. When we jump over to this other side, it is completely rotted through. So this is just some old rubber we're gonna have to take out, but this is gonna be really, really difficult to repair. So since that is that bad, we are going to repair it. What we're gonna have to do, what we're looking at doing right now, first of all, we're gonna have to remove these plates on the underneath. And then after that, we've got a couple welds right here and right here. And then there's just these bolts that are up top right here that have to get removed. And then we're hoping that the whole entire bed should come back. I think that's the only thing connecting it, but we are gonna have to cut the tacks on our chassis table to allow it to come back. We're gonna have to take tons of measurements and make sure that we get the bed back in the same spot after that is repaired. So it's gonna be really interesting to see how we do this. Hopefully it's just gonna be these simple bolts. It'll pop off and then we'll be able to repair that. But I mean, who knows? We're just gonna have to tear into it. This is definitely one of the scarier parts of doing a restoration, is because you never know what you're gonna find, and some stuff may be extremely difficult to repair. But we're gonna do our best to try and pull this bed floor back so we can get access to that piece and repair it. Fingers crossed, here we go.
Finding rot on a classic car is one of the hardest parts of a restoration. Not because it's complicated, but because it's emotional. This happens all the time. You go into a project excited, picturing shiny paint and finished details, then you strip a panel, poke a spot with a screwdriver, and suddenly the reality hits: hidden rust, thin metal, repairs that weren't visible before. It can feel discouraging, even overwhelming. But remember, every solid classic you admire went through this stage. The difference between an abandoned project and a finished car isn't talent or money, it's the willingness to push through the ugly part and keep going. Fix the rot one section at a time, because on the other side of it is a car that is truly saved, and the pride of knowing you were the one who didn't give up. Mike and I had to keep this mentality when working to remove the bed. We were hoping that the rust was only on the top panel and didn't rust all the way through into the lower structure stuff underneath. But the only way to find out is to get the bed off. And this thing was stuck. We removed all the bolts, but it still was fighting us. It seemed like the rust had welded the whole front of this bed into place and we couldn't break it free. But then it started to move. One small victory at a time. When we started on this blazer, we had no idea we were going to be splitting the entire thing in half. We truly have never seen anything this bad. Instead of this looking like a blazer, it looks more like a truck cab. Now it's time to see how rotted this thing actually is.
Guys, we don't know what happened. We don't know what happened. We didn't realize that this was two sections and that we were literally splitting a body in half when we were trying to remove this bed. All of the bolts came out perfectly, like finger tight. We could just take it right out. No rust, which is crazy because all of this is so rusted it usually sinks down in and then that'll seize your bolts. But now you can see with the bed off, that'll give us complete access to all of this. That way we can repair this. As far as rust up here, this whole section is rotted, as you can tell. We're gonna have to try and remove this top layer first to get it off and then figure out what we're gonna do with the layer underneath because it's two separate pieces of metal. We think that the layer underneath is gonna be okay, but we're not gonna know until we get this top piece off. So we're gonna work on getting this top piece removed right here, and then we're gonna have to bend a section and build this whole piece because they don't sell it. So we're gonna have to build this whole piece on the brake and then weld it in. But this is gonna be extremely difficult to do. Mike and I are professionals, so we're gonna get this knocked out. Okay, so we made a lot of progress on metal fab today. So we got the rest of this rot out, and I don't think I've shown them it yet, Mike. You can see all of this was pretty rusty in here. We are gonna have to do a little bit of fabrication with these body mounts. We're gonna rebuild these tabs just that hold the body mount nut into place. We're gonna redo both of them, and then we're just gonna clean up and rust seal the rest of this. But as far as building this piece, they don't sell this piece, so we had to make it. Mike just got a test piece and built this on the brake, just did a couple bends to kind of see what we were after. And once we got the shape down, he was able to bend this, which we are gonna have to bend two of these because our brake is not long enough. So we decided to split it in half. So we're gonna have a seam right down the middle that we're gonna have to weld, but it sits just like that. And actually it looks really, really nice. This is gonna sit a little bit lower because it's sitting up on all of these. So we're gonna have to grind and clean all of this. That way we can get this to sit flush, but pretty cool. It wasn't as difficult as we thought it would be, but there is still a little bit more work to be done right here. While Mike was doing that, I was working on this piece, which actually comes and sits right here. And if you remember, this had a couple big rot pieces on it. So one here, a big one right here, and then a huge one right there. I got all that patched and it looks really good from both sides. You're not gonna see the back side, so it doesn't matter as much, but the front of it looks really, really good. So if you look underneath, you're not gonna be able to tell we did patches there. So before we bolt this back up, we gotta do a little bit more rust repair right here to fix that rot. So we're gonna knock the rest of this out, get it all welded in place, and then get this piece bolted up. halfway done with the repair on this back section right here. I went ahead and got the tabs for the body mounts done. Mike welded them in place, and then Mike finished making the floor patch. Got them rust sealed, so this is what we do to the insides of the panels where we're not gonna be able to put the epoxy primer. We're gonna put down this rust seal first. It is just a rust encapsulator, so it's not gonna allow it to re-rust. And then once this dries, we're gonna go back and mark where all of our spot welds are, because you can't weld to this. The weld will not adhere to it. So we'll mark the spots, and then we'll belt sand them, and then use a weld through primer on those spots. That way everything is coated. So these are both the patches that Mike made, and of course we rust sealed the back of them, and then we'll just grind around the holes. That way the weld will penetrate. As far as me, I got this patch built right here and put in, and it came out pretty nice. And then this was the original piece, and this is the patch that I was able to build for it. So everything lines up perfectly, and it's gonna slide in right over here and just pretty much attached like that. I do have another piece on the bottom that I have to make, which is this one, which is going to be an absolute pain. So this should be the last piece. So this will get welded in, we'll build this piece, weld this piece in, and then we pretty much have to do the same thing to the other side, and then we're gonna be able to bolt this piece back up because the rust repair has already been done on it. So we're about halfway done. We're gonna come back in a couple days once this fully cures, and then we're gonna keep going on this. That way we can get this thing knocked out. So, see you guys in a couple days. We've made a ton of progress on metalwork in the last couple days. This was that rusted out piece that I was showing you guys last time, and I was able to pretty much build it out of metal, and it came out really nice. It fits really nice. Just have to weld this in. Right now I only have one welder here, so Mike was actually welding this back big patch in right here, and it came out so good. So we bent this on the brake, treated the inside, prepped the outside, and then Mike was able to weld the whole thing in. Took a little bit of time just because we had to weld this whole seam right here, but it came out so good. And this is the first finished patch that we have done to this blazer. We were both pretty intimidated when we first saw this, but this rust repair was actually super easy, and we were able to knock this out. So I only have one welder. That is why I've been doing all of these patches over here. So I've got all these patches pretty much made to fill in these sections down here. And then also on this other side, we've been doing a lot of patchwork too. So we've been really cruising through the metalwork right here. Like I said, we both were really intimidated, but so far everything has gone really, really smoothly. But I think that's gonna be it for this episode. Stay tuned for the next one, because we're gonna be finishing up all these patches down here, bolting up the floor brace, and then getting the floor reconnected to the body. And then once that's done, we can start on exterior sheet metal, we can start on floor, so lots and lots of progress is gonna be happening to this blazer. So be sure to follow along, and be sure to like and subscribe, and let me know what you guys think in the comments below. How do you guys think these patches came out? Let me know if you guys would have done anything differently, or if you like the way that these patches came out. Thanks so much for liking, thanks so much for subscribing and watching this video. I will see you guys next time on this 76 Chevy Blazer restoration. Peace out.